the party line did not hold, and so consequently she said, a pox on all your houses. I'm going to go out and I'm going to create something that's independent, something that we can control our own beliefs, our stances and stuff. And so she went out along with others and started this thing called the Tequila Party. And soon after the Tequila Party, her and this other young lady from Arizona, her name is Miss Didi Garcia Blaze, got together and they created another party, again using the same reasons that they were very upset and not comfortable at all with the Democrat and Republican Party, and they created this party called SOMOS Independence. And so Shirley, welcome, and thank you so much for taking that long trip from Lincoln down here to Omaha.
It's my pleasure.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the world, let's say, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll get into some of the major issues regarding Somos Independent.
Okay. I had been a long-time Democrat since the McGovern days. However, my mother, her brothers and sisters, back in the 40s, were first registered as Republicans. Because back in the 40s, in western Nebraska, the Republicans were the only ones that were actually inclusive of Mexican Americans. Now, fast forward to my 18th birthday, real proud, went and registered as a Democrat. We were pro-McGovern. We certainly were very active as a family, canvassing for candidates. And was pretty happy with John Kennedy and what he believed in and what Lyndon Johnson did for civil rights. Then we fast forward to the Republican Party in the 80s with Reagan. And Reagan was actually had some deficits, but certainly had a vision when it came to business. And he was the last president that properly addressed the immigration issue and allowed people that had been here, hardworking, law-abiding people, to adjust their status through fines and through the process of adjustment. Now, that was back in 1980. Now, let's fast forward to 9/11. After 9/11, we had certain individuals in the government. Ashford, Chris Kobach was working as Ashford's assistant. That was their opportunity to get repressive in regards to immigrants that were coming from south of the border.
So who's Chris Kobach now?
Well, Chris Kobach is a, well, he's been many things. He was a law professor. He was a fellow in the Ashford administration when Ashford was the Attorney General in the Bush administration. Now, Chris Kobach, on his thesis for his PhD, JD, he wrote about how America would change, drastically change, and the white establishment would lose their power if they allowed the Latinos coming from south of the border to become citizens. And so this has been in the works for a lot of years. He's also the legal counsel for FAIR, who has a history of being created by individuals that believe in white superiority. Although I've personally litigated against him and asked him what his preferences were in regards to the white race, and he uh, clearly denied that he had no bigotry in his bones. However, if you look at his history, he was very active in the Arizona anti-immigration legislation. He also was, and across the United States, he also was very active in the Fremont Ordinance, has made millions of dollars with his anti-immigration legislation and rhetoric. He's currently the Secretary of State of Kansas and is the author of many anti-immigrant legislation and laws, and currently was the architect for the voter ID law that they have in Kansas that's very repressive. Anyway, Didi Garcia Blaze was a staunch Republican, and I was the liberal Democrat, although I'm very conservative on certain issues. However, it was a Republican white male that introduced us. And at that time, she was a Republican, I was a Democrat, and we were both very unhappy with our respective parties and the lack of leadership in regards to immigration reform, the DREAM Act, and adjusting missed status families. So we come together and we decided that we needed to address the Tea Party and all its xenophobic rhetoric and repressive legislation that they were attempting to get passed. And we had quite a bit that was attempted to be passed here in Nebraska. So we decided that we're going to create this party that we called Tequila, because we needed a shot for change.
That was good.
It was a tongue-in-cheek tagline, but what we found was there were a lot of Republicans and Democrats and independents that were very unhappy with the lack of proper leadership in regards to immigration reform and comprehensive immigration reform, and could not understand why a mixed status family, and what a mixed status family is one parent is not a citizen and the other parent is a U.S. citizen, and the children born here are U.S. citizens. However, that one parent, it's almost impossible for them to adjust if they come from south of the border. Now, if they're from Europe, much easier, much easier. But if you're an immigrant from the Philippines or from Mexico, you're basically screwed. And this was not by chance. If you are a Mexican immigrant who has a U.S. citizen spouse and you came here undocumented, it takes quite a procedure to adjust. Now, what I don't understand is, depending on which country you come from, determines how long your wait's going to be. Not fair. Not fair. And clearly, the way it's set up, it is the bias against people from south of the border is just unbelievable.
Okay, let me, because I think it's important, and it's kind of like the first time I'm hearing it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about after 9/11 and Chris Kobosh and his thesis. And in his thesis, he predicted that if they didn't slow down the immigration, that they would, the white America would eventually lose their power. Okay. Am I right so far?
You're exactly right.
All right, so this is part of a stratagem. In other words, whatever goes on, including the Fremont issue, All of these things are part of the fight against Kobach's belief that an unfettered migration to the United States was going to threaten their dominance. And he's pretty smart in that it's happening. We are in the transition period, but it gives, for the first time, for me anyway, it gives that this is not happenstance. What's going on is not happenstance. What's going on is planned, and it is part of the bigger picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. This has been, it's what I call it is the slowing of the browning of America. And clearly, Latinas generally, we do not abort our children. We have our children. Our children are our future. So thus, if we have an unplanned pregnancy, we take that to birth. And so Kobach and FAIR and now they have a legal arm, which I don't remember what it is, immigration rights. Oh, I'm murdering it. I can't remember what it is, what it's called. But they have systematically attempted to force people to deport just by their policies.
Sure, we're going to take a quick break now, and we'll be back in a second. Don't go away.
I've been working with the Joaquin Luna family. Joaquin Luna was the undocumented DREAM Act activist who took his life the day after Thanksgiving. He had a bright future. Texas A&M accepted him. Some pretty bright colleges in the state of Texas were willing to accept him. The day after Thanksgiving, he took his life because he felt he had no hope. We've been working with this family. They're willing to work with us to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people and their family. And we've made a promise, the Tequila Party made a promise to the Joaquin Luna family that we will never let Joaquin Luna's death be in vain. You know, in a time where Elian Gonzalez from Cuba and his mother were trying to raft their way over here to the United States, the mom died, and they discovered Elian Gonzalez in a raft near the shores of Florida. That was on Thanksgiving Day. Almost 10 years later, we have our own brother of Mexican descent who took his life because he felt he had no hope. We need to wake up, we need to stir ourselves, we need to find our tias, our tios, our cousins, you know, everybody who's eligible to vote, we need to find them and say, are you registered to vote? Please vote for the DREAM Act students. Be a voice for the voiceless. That's the importance of the Latino vote this year. We need to be a voice for the voiceless. I'm hearing Latino Democrats, Latinos who are telling me, oh, I'm not going to vote this year because the immigration promise was broken. That's when we all need to say, excuse me, now is the time to vote. This is the reason why we're in the situation that we're in today, because we don't vote enough. I believe in my heart that this is our year.
Welcome back to this session. We're talking with Shirl Mora. Shirl is an attorney out of Lincoln, Nebraska. She's an advocate for really Chicanos and Latinos. She practices law. She does a lot of defense work and immigration work. So, Shirl, when we left off the last session, we were talking about Chris Kobach and the fact that if his book, which I'd like to read it, by the way, if his thesis talks about the browning of America and the dangers that it imposes upon society that has seen itself as dominant, and because it scares them. And out comes this xenophobia that they're talking about, and that's what's manifesting itself across the land. And that demographic fact, the demography, the fact that we now have over 50 million, quote, Hispanic, Latinos, Chicanos, whatever, and we have so many people of color, blacks, native people, whatever, and now, as of August 22nd, the United States is now a majority-minority country. And I think it's only timely, it's almost Renaissance that somebody like you and Ms. Blaze are championing this new, it's like a new way to go. It's like it's very timely, and that it gives us another choice that is controlled, that is consistent of a certain thought process. And I don't think you're totally brown. You probably have other.
No, we have.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the SOMOS independence and their structure, their mission statement, and what have you.
Okay, all right. SOMOS Independence is a national group. We are independent, registered independents, led by Mexican American, Latino women. We also have leaders that are males. Our individuals are either originally Republicans or Democrats who have decided that what's most important is to educate, empower individuals to become active voters that vote for politicians that resonate with our issues. We organize voter registrations by targeting not only the elderly, but also our future, the millennials, and realize that the college age voters prefer to register as independents, ironically, than choosing any major political party. We believe in putting people before the party, and that the most important thing is to get all individuals who are eligible to vote, registered to vote, and to address the issues that affect the average American. And immigration is one of those issues. Education is another issue. And when someone asks us, well, you're pro-amnesty, aren't you? No, we're not. However, we are pro-family. And that includes family that have mixed statuses within that family. And we believe that all families should be kept together. And the father or the mother should not be deported. If they are a law-abiding citizen, they should have an opportunity to adjust. A lot of these families, their person that needs to be adjusted has been here between 10 to 30 years. They should be able to adjust. They're law-abiding. Some of them are property owners. Why do we make it difficult for families to exist in love and peace. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that is so critical because you're putting the details into the into the equation here. It is very easy for this 30-second biter to say no amnesty, deport them all. But then when you start to break it down into the reality and the humanitarian component, there's nobody speaking to the humanitarian component except you, except individuals like yourself. I mean, we'll get into the candidates in a few minutes, but because they have positions, the governor and all that. But right now, what you're saying and putting a face and a voice to it is that along with just the word amnesty, if you go ahead and say deport everybody who's undocumented, and if you're in a mixed status family, that chances are you're going to separate the families, or you're going to force an American by birth to have to go to a place that's totally foreign to them. And I don't think that's what America is all about. So I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
Okay, anyway, so we have decided to form the group Somos Independents. And Didi Garcia Blaze and myself are the co-founders of this organization. We are an independent organization because we want to have the ability to explain to individuals what and how important it is to vote. But more importantly, who should we be voting for as members of a mixed status family, as members who have been historically ignored by both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And I'm talking about Latinos, Chicanos, Hispanics, however you want to define us. We have never ever been a group that either party addressed our issues. All you have to do is, even on TV today, where are the Hispanics? On the talk shows, even the female talk shows, where are the Hispanics? They just recently brought a Puerto Rican actress on one of the female talk shows. Seriously? Seriously. Yeah, we're, unfortunately, you know, and the roles that we see out there in the media, you know, we're somebody's maids. Well, I ain't nobody maid. I am not nobody's maid, and will never be. And I have a lot of sisters that are not anybody's maids, and will never be. There's a lot of educated Latinas out there. There's a lot of educated Chicanas. There's a lot of educated Hispanic women out there. So basically, we believe that it is up to us as women to awaken the giant. And trust me, the giant has awakened. And within the next 10 years, we're going to have tens of thousands of eligible voters that are U.S. citizen born. We will have to be dealt with. Our issues have to be addressed by either party.
Cheryl, what is your movement like here in Nebraska? Is there a hierarchy? Is there a structure? Whom should you contact? It's like, is there a president of the state of Nebraska? Do you have membership fees, or what is it?
Okay, if you want to become a member of Somos Independents, you can contact Tony Lehal Wilson, and her email is tm@Mora, Mora, James, James, law.com. That's her business email. And you can contact her via email. And we have monthly meetings. She is the president of the Nebraska SOMOS Independents. And we have members across the state, actually. And we just do one-to-one recruiting. We do have events to register people to vote. Actually, next Tuesday, I'm headed to Lexington to promote the young Latino who's running for legislature. That's Luis Sotelos. And it is about finding politicians that address the basic issues: education, jobs, immigration. It's time to fix these problems that are fixable, instead of using them as battering rams against a group of individuals who don't have the right to vote, and that's immigrants.
Good. Cheryl, I recently declared publicly that I was going to be a member of SOMOS Independents, but I haven't gotten to the registrar's office to change my registration to an independent. Is it necessary that you be an independent to belong to SOMOS Independents?
We would prefer that you are, but we welcome anybody that wants to join our group.
Good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another break here as we go into our third session, and I think we'll get more or less into the politics that are happening on a statewide basis and on a local basis.